Today we'll be going over section 2.8 day 2, equations of lines, and we will be using two different formulas to get us through those. The first one is the one you probably learned in algebra. It's the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So hopefully you're familiar with this one, where it says the slope is your m value, and the b value is your y-intercept. And the y-intercept is where the line will cross the y-axis. Okay, my new one I'm going to teach you today, if you may have not heard of it, it's HK form, and it looks like this. Y equals slope times the parentheses x minus h plus k. So we have a point, and the point is going to be the h value, which we have to take the opposite. It will be h as positive, because I would have to move that h out of the parentheses and over to the other side of the equal sign to solve for it. And then the y value is associated with the k on the other side. If you notice, the y and the k are already on opposite sides of the equal sign, so I do not need to take the opposite value of the k. So those are the two formulas we'll be using in this section. The first example is very basic, where they give me the slope already and they give me the y value all the way from the beginning. I have the m, I have the b, so I'm going to use the slope-intercept formula and just plug in the information I now know. Since the slope is 3, I'm going to put the 3 where the m was in front of the x, and since the b value, the y-intercept, is 7, I'm going to put it here at the end. And then there is my equation. Always write your equations with y equals by itself. On number 2, it looks like they're giving me the slope here, so I'm going to say this is your m value. And then they gave me the point, negative 1, 2, and I will write it up as hk, and we will practice our new formula right now. So I'm going to practice that new formula that says y equals slope times x minus the h value plus the k value. Right away I can see that we have 4 as my slope, so I'm going to replace it. And then x minus the h, which happens to be a negative number, so I'm going to kind of put brackets here to show you, to distinguish between the negative, plus the k value, which is 2. Now I'm going to simplify, and I get y equals 4 times x plus 1 plus 2. And then when I distribute to get all these parentheses to go away, I get 4x plus 4 when I distribute, plus the 2 from the back, saying my final answer here will be y equals 4x plus 6. That's my final answer when I simplify this 4 and 2 together. On number 3, I'm going to write an equation, and in this equation it needs to be parallel to this line here. So I need to figure out what the slope of that line I underlined in purple is. I can see it's right there at m equals negative 2. So I'm going to use that slope, and then the only other thing I would require is my b value to finish out the equation. I'm going to go back to the slope-intercept form just to mix it up. You can use either one of these formulas on your problems, whichever one is more comfortable for you. So I'm going to kind of show you both back and forth. This time, because I have an x value and a y value, I can go and replace my y value here with a negative 3. And then I'm going to replace the slope with a negative 2 and my x value of 4. And then I can just simplify and find out what that b is now. So negative 3 equals negative 8 when I multiply. And then when I add the 8 over, I'm going to get b equals positive 5. So over here, I'm going to write the equation using my slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b tells me my equation would be y equals -2 for the m, x plus 5. So that's using the slope-intercept equation. But I want to show you again, just because it's brand new, the HK form, how that would work out as well. You don't have to do both of them. I just want to show you so you can choose which one you prefer. So the HK said y equals m times x minus h plus k. And so this was the h where the x was, k where the y was, and we already know that the slope is -2. So I'm going to show you how we can go straight to that HK form quickly. X minus 4 plus the -3, I can just write as a -3. I don't need plus a negative, but I do need to distribute. So I get y equals -2x, distribute again for +8. And as you can see, when I combine my numbers at the end, I get the exact same answer. So truly just a preference of which formula you like. On number 4, I again need to find the parallel, but the problem with this one, I can't just say what the slope is yet because the y is not by itself yet. So I'm going to go ahead and say, take that 2y equals x plus 6, divide by 2 everywhere to identify the slope. I'm going to actually even write it as 1/2 to show you how the 2's on the bottom. I don't care about anything other than the slope here, and that slope says it is going to be 1/2. And I need to be parallel, so that's the slope I will also use for my new one. Let's go ahead. Let's go back to that y equals mx plus b if you want. And I get y equals, well, let's go ahead. We had to find the b. So I'm going to say y equals -1. We know the slope is 1/2. X is 4. So we're going to say -1 equals half of 4 is 2. And when I subtract that 2, I'm going to get -3 equals b. So my equation would be y equals, put the slope in front, 1/2 x minus 3, because again, you don't need to put a plus, a negative. And then just one last time, let's just show you how that new formula could be nicer if you prefer it. I'm going to go with the y equals m times x minus h plus k. Again, the h is your x, the k is your y. We already knew the slope is 1/2. 1/2 of x minus 4 plus a negative, I can just write it as -1. And then I'm going to go ahead and distribute. I get 1/2 x. And again, half of -4 is -2. And as you can see, I get the exact same answer again. So again, it's nice to know both, and then that way you can pick which one you like as your favorite. Either or. Number 5 now wants us to use the perpendicular slope. So if this slope has a slope of 4 and I need to have perpendicular slope, I need to have the opposite reciprocal, so that would be 1/4 for the reciprocal and now negative because I need them to be opposite signs. This time I'm just going to choose one, so for this particular one I'm going to go with the y equals mx plus b. And then we have the x, the y. I need to find the b. So we're going to say 5 was my y value, -1/4 for the slope. X is 8. I'm going to put that over 1 to help out. And we're going to look for that b. Here, 4 goes into 8 2 times. So this is going to say 5 equals -2 when I reduce. Multiplying by a fraction of 1/4 is the same thing as dividing by 4. So 8 divided by that -4 is going to be -2. Now I'm going to add the 2. And I get 7 equals my b value. So now that I have my 2 pieces of information there, I'm going to write the equation y equals -1/4 x plus 7. For number 6, again, I can't quickly identify the slope until I have the y by itself. So let's go ahead and just move that 3 over to the other side. But before I can do that, I should probably get rid of that parentheses. So y plus 3 equals 1/2 x for the first distributive, and then half of 8 will be that -4. Now I can have room to move that -3 over. Not that it really matters too much because that was just going to affect my b value, which I don't need. I, more than anything, care about the slope. And so if that slope is going to be 1/2, my perpendicular slope, the perpendicular slope that I want, will be -2/1, or you can just put -2. And since in number 5 I used the y equals mx plus b equation, I'm going to go switch back to show you one more time the HK form. Minus h plus k. Keep in mind the h is your x, the k is your y. So we're going to use the perpendicular slope of -2, x minus a negative h value, which is already negative, and then plus the 4. For the k, I'm going to say this turns to positives, so when I distribute, I get y equals -2x, again, -6, plus that 4 on the back end, for a final answer of y equals -2x minus 2 when I combine. So one of each to show you the 2 different formulas we're using. Now we have a couple of special cases. Horizontal and vertical lines will only have either an x or a y. They will not have both letters. So for horizontal lines, it's going to actually be y equals some constant number c. And if it helps you to see this, we have the y-axis, the x-axis, and if we have a horizontal line, it's actually hitting the y-axis at some number. So that's why we're using the y, because it's telling us which axis it's hitting and at what number it hits. As far as the vertical line, it's going to be an x equals some number, which is a constant. And again, if I'm looking over here on a graph, a vertical line goes up and down, so therefore it's going to hit the x-axis at some point, which we will call C. And then those are my special cases. So the first thing I look at on number 7 is I need to have it parallel to the line y equals 3. And parallel means the same slope, or in this case, the same direction. Since this is a horizontal line, I want the same type of line, so I want another horizontal line, which means I want the same letter. And then I go ahead and I pick the y value out of the point it needs to go through. So y equals -1. And if that is too much, you can always sketch it. You can always do a sketch here. So if we have a y equals 3 line, that would just have been a horizontal line 3 high. And if I wanted it to go through the point 2, -1, 2, -1 would be right in here. And to be parallel, I would have to be another horizontal line. And as you can see, I have that matching my y equals -1 as well. And for my last problem, number 8, they want me to be perpendicular. So perpendicular tells me opposite reciprocal. So if I'm thinking opposite, I need to be the opposite of a horizontal line, which in this case would be a vertical line. So I need to be a vertical line, which is telling me I need to use the opposite letter. So instead of y, I'll be using an x. And since it needs to go through this point, I'm going to grab the x value, 7. Otherwise, like we've done before, draw maybe a sketch if you need. Y equals -2 would be down here as a horizontal line. To be perpendicular, you would need to be the vertical line, and it has to go through 7, 8, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, way up here. It's going to go down this way. See how it hits the x-axis at 7. Okay, so we are all done with section 2.8, day 2. And then, like always, if you have questions, we will talk about those when I see you again.